one thing about the early days of Cloud9 and complexity when you were the in-game leader is you're saying here this scenario where, you know, like you were one of the only ones listening and Steno was just sort of like, he's given his speech and that, but you know, like this happens in CSGO. People are alt-tabbed. People are like fucking on Skype with a girlfriend, whatever. This is what happens, unfortunately, in NA CSGO. Isn't this what happened to you? I mean, this is one of the things that boggles my mind, Sean, that nothing became the in-game leader. Because he's the ultimate, like, example of the guy where if this was like a movie, okay, he's like the guy in the class who's always got the dunce cap on and like is never listening and is getting sent out the class. You know, this is the guy who never listened in the practices, right? Wasn't that kind of what it was like for Sean Gares at some points in time? It sounded like that's something that frustrated you, right?
I know, right? How ironic that the guy that like, I don't know. I became Steno. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually, Jordan put in a lot more work than a lot of people believed. I admit, when I played with him in the early complexity days and even the early parts of Cloud9, he was a big problem as far as his like dedication goes and his efforts put into the game. That stuff came from his time in EG, like towards the end where Tommy was his leader and stuff like that. Like he always had those problems in 1.6. But eventually, I think he felt the pressure of like Spencer wanting to cut him. He felt this pressure, this immense pressure to like, he was on the hot seat and he had to learn like how to get himself out of that. And he basically would stay up in boot camps with me like till 5 a.m. trying to find smokes and like weird stuff. I mean, Jordan still wasn't a crazy, ridiculous player. He had so much potential. And I just saw all this potential in Jordan. He's such a good personality to have within the team. He kept good vibes going when he wasn't like causing Spencer or Corey to like go crazy and want to kill themselves. Like, but he's trying to be happy, you know, like he just would fuck up and upset them. It's not like he would like be toxic about it or anything like that. And yeah, Spencer on several occasions and even Corey came to me and they wanted to replace Jordan. And it ended up being these scenarios or these situations where we do team votes, and I can't remember who our fifth always was throughout the time, but it was like, obviously it was me, Jordan, Corey, Spencer, and maybe Brax or maybe Shroud. Like Shroud, yeah, anyone. But it would always be them two wanting to cut him, the other guy, Brax or Shroud or whoever, just very passive, just doesn't give a fuck, you know. Maybe it was anger, and then me. Obviously, I'm the swing vote, and they would always try to come to me, and they needed me because I think we needed 3 players from the last major to keep our top 8 spot to get into the next major. So they needed me. They needed me to want to kick Jordan out. And it was always me. It was always me that kept Jordan on the teams. And I'm not sure if he actually knows this. I think I've kind of brought it up to him a little bit towards the end of Cloud9. I'm sure he knew that Spencer wanted him cut, and just the way that Spencer talked to him a lot of times in game towards the end of when Spencer was on the team, it was like Spencer was definitely fed up. Yeah, Spencer 100% wanted Jordan gone, and yeah, it's probably my fault that Spencer ended up leaving the team.
Okay, so you say this actually. Actually, that's something I always thought was funny, because in all the interviews, obviously people kept bringing this up to MTW players, and they would always say, no, we're not scared of them, you know, we don't even think about the record. But I'm pretty sure, I think I talked to one of them years later, and then they were like, oh yeah, we definitely, you know, used to be like, fuck, we always lose, like we're worried every game. Could you actually sense when you played them, like, you know, if it's a close game, they will probably break?
For sure, they thought about that, because I was a pro player, and when we lost a lot of games versus SK Gaming, we thought that it will be another very hard game for us. Yeah. And so I think the same thing was working with MTW. And you know, the funny thing that Zonic like now is the CSGO coach for Astralis, yeah. And on Star Ladder in September, when Astralis beat Navi, it was the first win by Zonic.
Okay.
as a coach in Astralis, but it was his first win versus Navi.
Okay.
It was like a funny fact.
Do you think Kaylee was cheating in that match?
I have no idea. Like he hit so many insane shots, both on practice and in the tournament. So I won't say anything.
Okay. Because I mean, by the way, that's not like a question just for you. I mean, I actually know behind the scenes. I've heard some of his teammates think he was cheating, and the other half don't. So I don't think there's any consensus. Actually, I just wondered what you thought because I know some players like it's easy to just go, oh well, he was probably cheating when he beat me in that match, you know.
Yeah, but it's like he's an opera, but like on practice he runs out Palace on Mirage and one taps 3 people. So we were like, yeah, why not?
So obviously this was the event where the infamous Flusher clips. I mean, the timing of it was ridiculous. I think they came out about maybe like 4 days before the actual major began, and then suddenly for these days before, every thread on HLTV.org, you know, was like Flusher clips. Here's more clips. Some are clips, some are GIFs, some are videos. You know, people like a CSI video, everyone studying and making wireframe models and stuff. You know, people went fucking ham on this. And what people will forget, Flusher, is that pro players were commenting on it. Like Shocks was saying on stream, yeah, these are obviously cheats. You know, I've seen cheats before. You know, like people. It wasn't just fans. It wasn't just HLTV or people. There were actual pro players. I mean, I won't mention the other names because if someone hasn't said it publicly, you know, I won't out them. But I know other players for top teams who either were like, yeah, they definitely cheat, or were like, oh, fuck those guys, they probably do cheat. And people will forget, at the tournament, you played a game, I think it was Hellraisers, and then when they beat you, they wouldn't shake the hands of the players in the team. Everyone's heard this story about some of the Cloud9 players. At the time, how did you handle it when this story broke and like half the community, it feels like, was like, okay, Flusher definitely cheats?
Honestly, I handled it well. I think like even though people didn't shake my hand or people made comments if they saw me or something like that, I didn't really. I didn't listen to anything. I didn't like. I didn't feel anything about them thinking something of me. But playing the first game in the DreamHack, that was really nervously, and that was against Bravado from South America, or South Africa,
yes.
yeah. So it was good for me to play against that team the first match.
Is there a player where when you play poker, like listen, I know you've played a million tournaments, you've played all the best guys, etc. But is there a player who has like you described about Boxer, who has like an aura when you play them and you think like, fuck, it's that guy, like this guy's just too good? Is there someone like that for you?
Not that much. I mean, it's quite different. Also in poker, you always like. I mean, you just always have like a decent chance of winning. You know, so there's not somebody like. There are like obviously like so many great players, but there's not somebody that I'll never get the same feeling of like, oh fuck, I'm gonna play Boxer again, and what am I gonna do? You know, it's not the same in poker, no. Even though there are like a lot of players who, I guess the one with the most. Two of the players with the biggest aura is my colleague Daniel Negreanu.
Sure.
Who is with me at GG Poker now, and probably Phil Ivey. Those are the two guys who are like
Classics,
the biggest
yes.
aura, but it doesn't affect me as much as some other players, I think.
If you play with Daniel Negreanu, is it like, I'm just asking this as a fan, is it like on television where one of the things he's really famous for is like he's amazing at talking while he plays, and he definitely fucks with people and does mind games because he always seems like he can tell you like what your hand is, and I can just see he just wrecks the amateurs with that. Like, does he really do that if you play with him?
Yeah, he's definitely like this. Like the thing you see on TV, it just happens, and I think he's definitely a great poker player, and he's really. Is one of the best players in the world, but he's even better against, as you said, against the amateurs because they get like, he has this aura and they watch him on TV and they're like, oh my god, it's Daniel Negreanu. It's like when you play against Boxer, it's like they already get like mind fucked just being at this table, and he's really good at like engaging conversation with them and putting them like in a difficult spot and like getting information from just talking to them. His style is just like, it's amazing for that.
When you play FaZe, it's always a close game, you know, and we always knew how to prepare well for them and how to play good against them because, you know, when you have, basically we were the underdogs. I mean, they're FaZe, we are Renegades, right?
Yeah, of course.
And everybody thinks FaZe should win, and FaZe thinks they should win, and
yes,
we feel like we are underdogs, kinda, in a way. But you know those teams when you're underdog and there's a favorite team, like a matchup where it's always That the underdog plays always good against that
Yes.
specific favorite, you know. And we always played good against them. Sometimes we played good, but they still beat us. Sometimes we played good, but we beat them. And what happened is that we beat them then. It was like 2-0, and then we end up, okay, well, it's going to go straight up head-to-head against Australis, right?
No biggie, right?
Yeah, just let's bring it on, you know. So we were super confident on Mirage. Like, we're going to pick Mirage. We're the best team on Mirage. We're just going to pick it. They were confident. They didn't remove it. So we picked it. They surprised us with the game plan. They really did. With the aggressive mid style, and on the CT side they won 13-2. So like, yeah, okay, we can buy Augs too. So we start off with a pistol, we come back, it was 15-14, we had a round, it was 15-15, and we ended up winning the
Overtime.
the overtime. It was 1-0 to us. At that point, we are coming down the stairs behind the.
I bet you believed you were going to win, didn't you?
Behind the studio, we're like, "Fuck yeah, let's fucking do this." We are going on
There
the
we go.
nuke, their best map. They didn't like, you know.
They never lost on it ever.
we're
Yeah,
gonna
exactly.
Yeah, we're gonna shut this shit down right here. You know, that's how we felt. And to be honest, we played a good nuke as well, and we were up 9-6 at the first half.
Yeah.
We actually played decent CS against them on nuke. We gave them a fight, and the same way we shut down Ents on the second half, that they did it to us, you know, because they were the best team in the world.
Of course.
Like you said, they are by far they were next level in comparison to anybody else.
Yes.
Not just us.
That's an event you could win. And so the reason why this is brutal to me is because when I'd seen the major, and I'm like, okay, fair enough, first time on the Legends stage, you're going to learn from that. Then you do this performance, it's like you're right on the cusp of maybe winning the event. That's when everyone wants to get hyped. You want to believe, like, right, that's it, fuck, Renegades is here, they're going to play. But basically, right after that is when the disaster struck with all the shit with Grass Faction and the visa and stuff. Like, give me the story on that, because a lot of people don't know that. They just know that, like, he was out of the lineup, like, Smoothie played an event, and then, like, but no one really knows, because even when he came back, I was told, basically, that even when he came back, the timing was so bad. He had to come back right at the beginning of, like, you go on, like, 3 tournaments in a row. So you basically just had to do months without properly practicing with the real lineup, right?
Yeah. Even back then, after that Star Ladder, we ran into trouble with his visa because he got denied by the U.S. government.
Right.
For, I think that the reason was like insufficient evidence that he was.
Same happened to me, mate. Yeah. This happened to a lot of people. The last few years, that's the thing that's increased, so they let less people in. Even though it's not true, they just say that you haven't given enough evidence, even though obviously you've sent all the fucking evidence. What it basically means is you just have to apply a second time, but that takes months.
Yeah, it also like it depends who you get in the government. Like
it's luck.
Somebody's like, oh, not enough evidence. Yeah, just denied. And somebody's like, okay, oh, maybe this guy is not that, okay, just approved,
Put it this way, if people, we're not trolling when I say this, genuinely, if you get unlucky, it might be a person where they're just like, esports, that's not real. And then they just deny, it can be that crazy.
Easily can happen. Probably did happen. But the point is that he didn't have enough evidence, and he was denied, so he didn't want to, obviously we didn't want to do when we talked to the lawyers and stuff, we didn't want to go I'll say not illegal route, but like risky route of just getting him in the States with his ESTA and stuff like that. We just wanted to do the proper way instead of like, because we were thinking like long term, what if he do some shady stuff and he gets banned for 5 years?
Of course, yeah.
It's just not smart thing to do.
There is a mad similar scenario where people get so triggered by our tweets, by the way, not by the tweets, that they will actually, in the same way as they would call Trump anything, they'll say literal outrageous lies about you or I. Like they'll suggest that like, we lied about every story we ever did, or we were just given the stories, but someone paid you to write them. Like things that, like, if you're a journalist, to make that statement publicly, you'd either have to very carefully couch it with a lot of caveats and disclaimers, like I sometimes have a suspicion that, what they're not doing, they're just saying we did it outright. Or you'd have to have the most nailed on the fucking wall, god tier sources of all time. And spoiler for fans, these are just complete fabrications. How do you deal with those sorts of things? Because those are the people where, I'll spin it to what I said earlier. in a weird way, right? If you were super vindictive, you could actually basically use the mechanisms they're trying to use against you. You could probably get some of these people fired if you really wanted. You have connections you could pull in. So how do you handle that? Because I know sometimes you fire back, I do sometimes. Sometimes I just ignore it because I think, again, these are fucking, bitter losers. You let them just have a moan or whatever. So how do you handle that part? Because again, if it's outside the industry is one thing. When it's the kind of motherfucker who might, in theory, meet you at a show one day and go, hi, big fan of yours, if you don't know who they are, like, that's a bit different, isn't it?
I mean, for me, the only thing I'll ever really get down and dirty to combat is any claim that I've fabricated any aspect of my work. I will not tolerate that. That is zero tolerance. That is as soon as that is implied, or any other material, fabricated lie that could have an impact on my career in terms of work moving forward. These must be challenged. Yeah, you owe it to yourself. You owe it to the industry, because when you let these like fetid little gremlins sort of succeed with doing these little operations, it's you today. But it's like Hunter S. Thompson used to say, right? Today's pig is tomorrow's bacon.
Yes.
And understand, it's never about, you can say my work's bad. That's fine.
Of course.
You can say my work was lacking in some areas. I'll even take that. I mean, I think generally feedback is worthless, because when you look at the caliber of the person giving it, it often really doesn't mean anything. They've got no credible experience in the field they're giving you the feedback for. But I will add, all of that's fair game. But if you say I fabricated something, well, right, okay, now what's really happening here is you, with a platform and an audience, are trying to convince that audience through that platform that everything Richard Lewis does is a lie. He can't be trusted. And, I might report on a story that's relevant to their interests tomorrow, and they might not believe it. There's even potential for real world harm depending on the story.
Certainly.
I might break a consumer related story, and saying, oh, this is happening, and they'll go, it's just Richard Lewis, hyperbole again. And then next thing you know, people are losing money, in a pandemic when every penny it needs to be pinched. So, listen, I'm under no illusion. Like, writing about video games, frivolous as fuck. Writing about esports, even more frivolous, probably.
Yeah.
But I'll add this. I've always tried to tackle the most important stories within that niche, and that's why my body of work stands out to other journalists in the space. So when people undermine that, what about next time I do a story about a player that's being abused and no one pays any attention to it because I've allowed some Russian cunt with 1 million followers to say my stories aren't legit? And that hurts that player. That player can't get out of that bad situation because of what that guy did.
I don't forget the people that support me. And in the case of this video, that would be Matt Pugnatio, Rajcula, Jasun, Jensen Goh, Nicky, Tosh, Toucan, and you know who I'm always going to give the biggest shout out to, my boy Jerky's Minion. Do you want to ask a question for my video AMA? Do you want to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Maybe you want to find out who the next guest is on one of my interviews that I've already recorded but not yet released. Or maybe you want to take part in one of those fabled long-form discussions where you get to decide the topics. Well, if any of those perks or others tickle your fancy, simply click on the Patreon link in the description box below and put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today.